long till next year?
Oh, it's almost time.
I really like a lot of video games. And of those games that I really like, I truly love a select few. I'd say most obviously, if you've watched anything else that I've made, I'm an extreme Zelda baby. But even among one of my favorite series, only a few games are truly in the heart-shaped cloud in my mind's eye's sky. Wind Waker video one day, surely. But not too long ago, a new game decided it was time to climb into my personal mental pantheon. Persona 4 was first released for the Sony PlayStation 2 in Japan on July 10th, 2008, and shortly thereafter in the United States on December 8th, 2008, and in the UK on March 13th, 2009. I was 12 years old. Persona 4 was released as a turn-based RPG in the vein of Atlus's Shin Megami Tensei series with a lot of borrowed combat mechanics and especially enemy and persona designs. In addition, it also had a social link and a calendar system, much like the previous entries in the Persona series, allowing the player character to form bonds and unlock further conversations with the game's cast throughout the course of in-game days. But I did not play Persona 4 on its initial release. While this game was introducing itself to the world and creating spin-off games, anime in the plural, and a musical, I was busy playing Zelda.
I'm in the barrel.
And throwing a football to myself in my front yard. No, I didn't play Persona 4 until its golden re-release, and even then, not until I was well into my mid-20s. For those unknowing, Persona 4 Golden is Persona 4 but with more stuff in it. More music, more story, a couple new social links, and a bit of a graphical overhaul. Interesting side note to me, anyway, is that Golden was actually released on the PS Vita first, in 2012. If I had owned a Vita and had known what Persona was in 2012, I think it would have made my brain explode to play this game in the middle of high school on a handheld console. But I also absolutely adore handheld consoles, so that's another video. Anyway, the point is, I didn't play Persona 4 Golden until pretty recently as a grown man for Microsoft Windows via Steam, and it still blew my mind. But why? Well, for me, Persona 4 Golden is like eating a bowl of cereal. Cinnamon Toast Crunch at my grandparents' house, and then calling a friend and planning to walk over to their house later and casually sneaking my way into staying over and playing Xbox all night. And a huge part of what generates that nostalgia within me is the game's cast. I would put the cast of Persona 4 up there with the all-time list of video game goons that seem like natural friends, among the likes of the Final Fantasy VII cast, Dragon Quest XI, RPG groups that are so charismatic that you naturally slot yourself into the group when you're playing through the story. This is one of those games where the more time I have away from the game, the more fondly I think of its cast of characters. Maybe it's a consequence of how much time you spend with them in a single playthrough, but the pace you're introduced to these characters with is incredible for such a large cast. And on top of the pace is also the place, like where you meet them. Inaba is a great little video game town with all the video game town necessities. You have your house, your school, shopping districts, one in town, one out of town. And also there's Juness, the big box department store where all the crazy stuff happens.
Sorry for the holdup. I found some stuff we can use in the closet at home. Take a look at these.
But in its simplicity, it finds a way to feel real, or, real enough anyway. And that realness is, I think, mostly a consequence of the game calendar system that has you living through the in-game days one at a time for around a year, seasons and all, with holidays and a festival or two sprinkled in there. In an interview with 1UP from 2009, Atlus art director and character designer Shigenori Soejima said about the small town setting, Inaba was modeled after a town on the outskirts of Mount Fuji. We didn't copy it detail by detail, but I think we captured the main characteristics well. We say countryside, but the images that pop into people's minds vary from person to person, such as a seaside town or a town in the mountains. Inaba's not a country town that has tourist attractions. It was written as a nowhere place you just pass right through. For better or worse, it's a run-of-the-mill town. And ooh buddy, I'm a sucker for a story set in the middle of nowhere as a lifetime resident of a nowhere place. And that's what's beautiful about Inaba though. It never once really feels like an empty nowhere place. And I'm a huge fan of Inaba itself as a character. You is who you are first introduced to, which I guess is technically true both for real life, but also for Persona 4 Golden. And in the case of this video game, it's spelled Y-U. Yu Narukami is a great self-insert protagonist. He's mostly silent, but his dialogue options give him enough of a personal identity that you don't feel like he's some sort of quiet alien.
Hey, who are you looking forward to seeing in a swimsuit, senpai?
Mine's nothing special. Crotcherry's thin and built for speed, so...
Hold it right there!
He is especially, performative in the anime, where most of his dialogue seems to lean towards the wacky dialogue choices from the game.
Fine, in that case, I'm gonna walk over and sleep in the girls' tent! They've got more balls than you!
For some girls, that is true.
The first principal cast members you meet after the little intro in the Velvet Room and on the train are Ryotaro Dojima, your detective uncle dad, who Yu is staying with for the course of the game's runtime.
Great vegetable.
And alongside him is the best character in all of fiction. You know her, you love her, Nanako Dojima. Now listen, I'm not going to spend a ton of time breaking down every character because that's not really what this video is necessarily, but Nanako was made in a lab to be adorable to anyone who interacts with her. She's a 6-year-old girl who lost her mother before she was old enough to really remember it, one who has spent a lot of her time alone, especially before Yu shows up on the scene because her dad is constantly leaving for work. I think what makes Nanako work so well is that she's very mature about her whole situation, especially for a 6-year-old. She's clearly unhappy when her dad leaves, but she has an almost supernatural kindness towards everyone and everything around her in spite of it. And, to avoid making a Nanako video, I'll stop for now, but she's truly the heart and soul of this game, and we should all strive to be like her.
At Junes, every day is Customer Appreciation Day. Come see for yourself and get in touch with our products. Every day's great at your Junes. Every day's great at your Junes.
After this, we get into the main group that you spend the majority of the game time with. First up is Chie Satanaka and Yosuke Hanamura. They're the first two of what becomes an entire team of friends you explore the Shadow World with. We'll talk about the Shadow World later. Chie is tomboyish and generally the boldest socially of the cast, as she's the first to talk to you at school. Her primary character trait is seemingly that she likes kung fu and meat.
Stop right there! What did you do to my DVD?
Ah!
What the? I can't believe this! It's completely cracked!
Yosuke is probably the strongest representation of a teenage boy in the mid-2000s we've ever had. Yosuke is sort of a bumbling goober who is secretly kind of clever behind the steel curtain of teenage hormones and the mid-2000s teenage ignorance. Early on, he's the first character to really put plot points together.
I can't hold it any longer! My bladder's gonna explode!
Yukiko Amagi is Chie's best friend, and that's probably all they are, but I mean, I don't know. I stopped short of calling Yukiko the most mature character in the group, but she's definitely the one with the most adult responsibilities. She's essentially next in line to take over her family's inn when she gets out of school, but she's definitely not the most mature in personality.
Oh no! My funny bone! Not again.
After Yukiko joins the group, you eventually meet my favorite guy in the entire game, Nanako notwithstanding. The great and powerful, Kanji Tatsumi.
Oh, I get it. What you're really asking is, will you please beat the shit out of me, Kanji?
Kanji's the biggest dog that there's ever been. I have a real soft spot for the sensitive tough guy, and nobody embodies that better than Kanji, and his social link is probably my favorite among the investigation team. His whole character is a great exploration and indication of positive masculinity. Kanji's the greatest.
Man, a watermelon.
And if it's not clear, Kanji is who I'm most connected with in the entire cast.
What am I supposed to say to this?
We're reenacting the birth of Venus?
Yeah, I'm ready to be born, damn it.
Next to join the crew is technically a 2-for-1 sort of deal. Rise Kujikawa joins at the same time that Teddy, I guess, technically joins. Rise is a pop star turned jaded with her life as a pop star. She moved back to Inaba to escape the overwhelming lifestyle she was living. Rise is seemingly the most random inclusion to the friend group, but her presence brings a sense of the outside world, actually existing to the cast. And that's pretty welcome due to how insular the game's world would feel otherwise.
You think that's long enough for a moving hug? Shouldn't you let go now?
Teddy's next. Teddy technically joins the investigation team at the same time as Rise, but he's also been there almost as long as Yosuke and Chie as the first thing we see once we go into the Shadow World for the first time. We'll talk about the Shadow World later. Teddy's the most alien guy in the cast because he's literally not human. He primarily serves as comedic relief or to be a huge pain in the ass. Despite everything, I think I like Teddy.
I gotta pee.
Our final group member is another great one. Naoto Shirogane joins late, but is no less impactful to the group dynamic than anyone else. Naoto is a fantastic character in design, story, and intrigue, and while I may not love the way Naoto's character was handled 100%, I'm still glad she's part of this group.
I'm sorry, Teddy. Only people have human rights.
Through the course of the game, you're introduced to these characters to the degree that you see them overcome their innermost flaws. You see them at their strongest and at their most vulnerable. And now that I think about it, that's probably the trick of Persona 4's writing to make you really invested in their journeys. I'd like to briefly point out it's extremely worthwhile to dig deeper into the writing choices of these characters. So much about the perception around the portrayal of characters like Kanji and Naoto changes when you have the context of, the culture they're written in and written from, time period, all that sort of thing. And that being said, I'm nowhere near capable of talking about this stuff with the nuance it deserves. So for that, I would direct you to videos by a YouTuber called Lady V, linked in the description. She has really good videos digging into these writing decisions with, real sources like dev interviews, actual statistics, like concrete research, stuff I only pretend to do. And not for nothing to me, but the messiness of these characters adds a lot of grit and friction to this game that makes it so much more memorable and worthy of discussion in the long run. Give me that grit and friction that can only come from a thing created by flawed human beings. I'd also like to quickly point out, the characters I've listed so far are far from an exhausted list of all the social links and characters you meet throughout the story. More of a rough run through of the main cast, like damn, I forgot to mention the amnesiac Marie. She's specifically a new character in Golden. She's another really compelling character once you get past her sort of standoffish shtick.
And you can just shut your stupid jerk face!
And all these guys play off each other insanely well, in my opinion.
Hey, wait up! Whoa, dude, stop it! What the hell are you doing? Quit fooling around!
We have to find out, right, Senpai?
No! Sensei, stop it! You'll fall in!
Hey! What do you guys think you're doing? Senpai, no! Don't leave me!
Man, I can't express enough how much stuff is in this game.
What was it?
I see you're all lost in thought. Here I go. Yosuke. Bach, maybe?
Off the mark.
It's a bunch of old white dudes. They all look the same to me.
Visually, Persona 4 Golden is out goddamn standing. It's my understanding that there was something lost between the original release and the Golden release in the visuals, specifically with stuff like fog in the overworld. I don't mind it terribly, but there's definitely a tonal difference between the two, so if that's something that's important to you, take note, I guess. Beyond that though, I just love this specific brand of visual language in video games. The PS2 era of model design and texture design is just the best to me. In my opinion, a game doesn't need to be a perfect visual representation of a real world thing. I mean, that's fine, but it doesn't need that. You just need to understand what it's trying to say. I want to avoid going on too much of a damn games these days type of rant, but if you're constantly chasing perfect graphical fidelity, then you're only going to stack up more problems for yourself. Let's say, for example, you have a perfect looking bottle of water in a video game, the hyper realistic, and the main character grunts and picks it up, then I better hear the water slosh in that bottle. I better see it move a little bit in there. That's a really stupid example of what I'm trying to say, but what I'm getting at is the closer you try to get to realism, the more you have to chase realism. And then suddenly it takes a studio 7 years to put out one game that gets a 6 out of 10 on IGN. My point is, I guess, that games don't have to look any better than something like this for me. A well-modeled and realized shopping district with a nice rain effect is literally all I ever want in any video game. I also find the character models really charming, and the expressive character art with text boxes does all the hard work of adding character to the models themselves. I love the weather in Persona 4. Rain, fog, snow, sun, whatever, man. It's a visually warm game. You've been hearing these songs throughout the entire video, but dog, I love the soundtrack of this game. To the degree that Atlas Sound Team moseyed its way up onto my Spotify Wrapped this year. Funny enough, I didn't immediately take to some of these songs. Initially something about the battle music just didn't hit me right the first time, but that's why we have the capacity to grow as people. But the first song that I heard upon opening the game is the one that set the tone for my whole experience with all of Persona 4. Like, dog, I love this song, especially in combination with this colorful opening, the goofy ass dancing characters who I don't know yet. It's just way too much fun. And then you have bangers like Heartbeat, Heartbreak. Specialist. I could do this all day. This video could be 2 hours long of me just going, this song is good, and then playing it. I also especially love the song Heaven. You don't hear it until pretty late in the game, so you kind of have to earn it. I just love how it's sort of this easy, soft song. It really fits the context you first hear it in. No spoilers, but... You see what I mean? Oh, hold on a sec. And to quickly touch on the voice acting cast, because I always like to kind of gesture at the cast, the voice actors. I played through this game with both English and Japanese voices, and both casts are absolutely phenomenal. I've got almost nothing but good things to say about all these performances. The only performance that I can even say felt a little out of place to me was Chie's English voice, but at the same time, there's something extremely endearing about her delivery.
Oh, nearly forgot. I'm Chie Satonaka. I sit next to you, right? Dude, I was sitting right next to you. I even talked to you. Anyways.
But everyone in the cast does an outstanding job bringing life to their respective characters. I will say, I do have a particular fondness for the English cast, but that's who I first experienced the game with. So, if you played through with the Japanese cast first, you'll probably prefer them, vice versa. You know how it goes.
Man, a watermelon!
It feels kind of insane to sort of touch on the story last, but I genuinely don't want to spend too much time on it. And partially because I tried to make this video like a year ago, 3 different times with 3 different scripts before this one, and I literally got so deep in the weeds all 3 times, that I had to start over completely, and it basically tanked my video work ethic for a while. But also because I think it's important to not cover everything. So if you've watched this video and want to play the game yourself, you still can without much being lost. Persona 4 Golden is primarily a murder mystery game. The inciting incident of the game's main plotline is the murder of local TV reporter Mayumi Yamano, who is found dead and hanging from power lines in town. And not long after, this leads to the murder of the object of Yosuke's infatuation, Saki Kanishi. At the same time, there's this rumor around town that if you look into the TV at midnight on nights when it's raining, through the static of the TV, you'll see your soulmate. It's like the most perfectly 2000s like rumor. It was a great plot point. Through testing to see if the rumor is true, you see Saki through the static before her murder happens. And through deduction after her death, mostly by Yosuke, the yet-to-be-dubbed investigation team realizes that people appear on the TV before their death, presumed murder, before their death occurs on foggy nights after a few days of rain. This all leads to the discovery of the TV world, when the group realizes they can not only go inside the TV, but they can save people from death inside the TV as well. They also meet Teddy for the first time here. This is the shadow world thing that I was alluding to earlier. Each of the main cast also has the power to use personas inside the TV once they overcome themselves in the TV world. Basically meaning they can control an elemental, magical spirit thing. If that makes sense. Everyone in the crew gets one with the exception of Yu, who can have as many as he can make in the Velvet Room, Yu being the game's designated chosen special guy. The murder mystery is the primary driving force of all 100-ish hours of the game, but it never becomes a belabored plot point because you're constantly adding characters to your crew along the way and simultaneously growing your relationship with those you've already met. It's essentially the story's engine, while the background themes reflect on or allude to Japanese mythology in the abstract. When you're playing through, go ahead and do a little research on each character's persona for me and then compare that to their primary plotline. Do a little reaching out for the truth, if you will. The mystery of the TV world itself allows the murder plot to stay as mysterious as it does for so long. I won't say too much more about the plot here, but it's extremely fun, not even mentioning the great side stories and non-required characters just jamming this game full of stuff. And just go ahead and play the darn game, pal. You know, like I said, while I have a lot of favorite games, I don't come back to many others with as many fond memories as I do with Persona 4 Golden. I guess, something about having a rich, dense cast, incredible music, great game design, and great visual design will do that for you. While I hesitate to dub anything my favorite blank of all time, Persona 4 Golden is insanely close to being my favorite game of all time, whatever that means. Of all time just sounds ridiculous. Of all time. I mean, there's a lot of time. Hopefully there's gonna be a lot more time. Just such a lofty thing to say about anything. Like since the beginning of the universe even? Like you don't think there's been anything? Anyway, Persona 4 Golden will be immensely difficult to unseat from my mental all-time pantheon. Maybe it's because the nostalgia of this era hits me in the right spot with, flip phones making a nice beep when you answer and an even better chunk sound when they close. Or any of the other sound design choices from the TV static, the rain on the roof at night, and the tapping of besotted footsteps in the Dojima house. And maybe it's just the rain, snow, and fog that fill me with another type of nostalgia for a time when weather was a lot more mysterious and less of, just a nuisance that makes it harder to get to work. It might even be just the satisfying turn-based combat that's just difficult enough. Ultimately, it's a huge conglomeration of all these things that add up to make this game what it is. This is an immensely full video game. It's something very special that I'll be chasing in other video games for a very long time.
Days like today, days like before when I did nothing, they're all important days.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget,
Every day's great at your Junes.